Hey, soulmates, we hope that weekend was good. Welcome to FOXSOUL's Black Report, your Monday edition. We're following the latest in the New York choking death case with new charges against that particular suspect and a former NFL player. His name is Doug Middleton. He's going to join us to discuss the importance of mental health in sports. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte, plus celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Freedom Riders and what Keke Palmer has to say about the Me Too movement. They're the stories that impact our people.
We're bringing you our news, our views, and our voice. So let's get into our top conversation for today. It takes us to Mississippi. A federal judge has temporarily blocked the appointment of 4 state court judges in a majority black county, including the state's capital. Now, the NAACP has filed a lawsuit against the appointments, alleging civil rights violations. Governor Tate Reeves signed legislation to expand state policing in Jackson and establish an appointed court, but the judge's order puts a halt to the appointments pending further hearings. Another lawsuit challenging the law is currently pending, arguing that appointed judges would infringe on equal rights. Nicordelai, there's been a lot of talk about this latest occurrence. As our in-house political pundit, explain to us in layman's term a little bit as to what has happened and then why our folks, black folks in particular, are so up in arms yet again in Jackson.
Well, a big part of what we're seeing is efforts on the part of the governor of Mississippi to take away the power, to dilute the power of black folks in Jackson to be able to decide for themselves who will represent them. You know, most court judges across Mississippi are elected. And so the fact that this bill was passed that would empower the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court to appoint judges to look over matters in Jackson, that's already a bit unusual. On top of expanding the Capitol Police in Jackson to also patrol the city of Jackson. And so, you know, shout out to the NAACP and the Mississippi chapter of the NAACP for just really being on top of this.
Yeah.
You know, they filed a federal lawsuit right after this law was signed.
You think
that's
key? You think that's going to make a difference?
Oh, absolutely. It's already making a difference. You know, this judge would not have stayed this decision had it not been for NAACP acting so quickly. And, you know, it's important to note there are 2 suits. There's one suit that, you know, really is going after these 4 judges that have been appointed to look over Jackson. But then there's another challenge where there are 3 Jackson residents who are plaintiffs in this lawsuit that are saying that, you know, this violates their constitutional right. There's no equal right here, and if they don't have an opportunity to elect judges that would preside over their city.
Yeah, and the consensus is people want to make and keep Jackson safe. It sounds like the way folks are going about it isn't in the best interest of everyone, in particular us soulmates.
You're right. And if this can happen in Jackson, it can happen anywhere across the country. Think about how many black mayors there are in cities across the country. Imagine if suddenly their power was diluted, you know, by a Republican governor or Republican-controlled state legislature. So we're going to be following the story closely.
Absolutely.
Now to South Carolina, where they've joined other states in opposing the teaching of certain historical topics. The Republican-controlled Senate passed Bill H3728, urging parents to challenge materials that touch on white privilege and implicit bias. The bill also prohibits teaching responsibility for past actions or treating individuals differently based on race. Critics, including the ACLU, argue that it restricts discussion on race and gender inequalities. Similar legislation has been passed in Florida. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley has criticized critical race theory as un-American.
So let's go to Florida, as the Department of Education has faced criticism for its list of approved textbooks, which includes discussions on current events like George Floyd's death, the Black Lives Matter movement, and racism. The removal of a section titled New Cause for Social Justice from a middle school textbook has sparked concerns about whitewashing history. Critics argue that altering or eliminating historical facts goes against educational principles. A similar similar controversy occurred in Florida, where a black man advocating for accurate history education faced racism during a school board meeting.
Yeah, I mean, this is more of the same coming out of Florida. But again, what happens in Florida doesn't just stay in Florida. What happens in South Carolina doesn't just stay in California. And there certainly has been a history of resistance to our existence, period, let alone in the history books. Courtney, this is social studies. How do you study what happens among the people in this country? How do you have a legitimate social studies class if you can't study social justice?
The effort to undo what has already been done, and the effort to not include our story and our history is just beyond me. And you mentioned former South Carolina Governor, Ms. Haley, who has put in her bid for the 2024 presidential election, which makes her stance even scarier because people are really, there's a whole movement buying into what she is saying, what she has tweeted, what she has made very clear. And to think that this person could potentially be in the White House is a very scary thing, which causes us to stay very vigilant as to these laws and these practices that continue to come up.
And speaking of South Carolina, it's also important to note with that South Carolina story about the Senate limiting class discussion, that bill, H3 728, was passed on the same day that South Carolina passed the Negro Act of 1740. That was a law that stated that enslaved African people couldn't read, couldn't assemble in groups, couldn't earn money, and other day-to-day liberties. And so that's not a coincidence. Yeah. That's not a coincidence. And there is a raging movement out there to put us in our place, to knock us down more than a peg, and to really erase the progress that has been hard fought in this country.
Being led by Florida, because a lot of South Carolinians who are against this bill here says, it's a copycat as to what's happening in Florida, and they really don't want to be a part of it. So the fight is on. That is for sure.
Yeah. Well, 1 year after the deadly massacre at Tops Friendly Markets in Buffalo, New York, victims' families have filed a wrongful death lawsuit against social media companies. They allege that the confessed killer, influenced by racist propaganda on these platforms, targeted and took the lives of 10 black individuals. Buffalo's first black mayor, Byron Brown, expressed his pain and praised the family's courage in seeking justice. The lawsuit aims to hold social media companies accountable for spreading hate and extremism.
All right, so let's go to New York as a crowdfunding campaign for Daniel Penny, the former Marine charged with second-degree manslaughter in the subway killing of Jordan Neely, has raised over $1.5 million. That's as of yesterday. Penny's lawyers argue he acted in self-defense, while Neely's family's attorney claims he was not provoking anyone and was experiencing a health crisis. The case has sparked polarizing political reactions, with some Republicans expressing support for Penny on social media. Meanwhile, protests continue for Neely, and a GoFundMe page has been established in his honor while the community continues to demand justice.
Daniel Penny be charged with manslaughter? Absolutely. Because he acted with indifference. Even though he couldn't smile, he made other people smile. That's who Jordan was.
And the fundraiser for Penny, however, is hosted by a law firm to cover Penny's legal fees and potential civil lawsuits. Any excess funds, Penny's team says, will be donated to a mental health advocacy program in New York City. Any
excess funds should be donated to vigilantes out there that need some mental health support and need to stop trying to choke black people on public transit.
Or Neely's family, who I'm sure, could use that type of support. Listen, this is one of those high profile cases to whereas we're going to have to follow it very, very closely. His defense is, I was operating in self-defense, when clearly the video shows something else. But we know that in past cases, there's been plenty of video and results still haven't yielded in the way that we would like to see them. It may appear to be like a black and white kind of case, but I'm sure both sides are going to have an interesting argument as to why or why not this man should be sentenced, to be convicted, and then pay for what has been done.
And to your point,
I think responsible.
And to your point, I think this case is about more than just the life of Jordan Neely and Daniel. It's about more than that. It's about vigilantism, and can folks just walk over and throw somebody into a chokehold on a public transit train and get away with it? I mean, 15 minutes. You know, the world was outraged. That's what
people take up issue.
Outraged.
Yeah, it's
you know,
one thing
in the George Floyd case, where George Floyd where Derek Chauvin had his knee on George Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes. This was 15 minutes in the chokehold, right? And so, and it's also very telling that so far, he's raised $1.5 million, but the Jordan Neely GoFundMe, as of Sunday, had only raised $103,000.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot on the line in this case. Moving along, NBA player Jay Morant has been suspended by the Memphis Grizzlies after a second social media video surfaced showing him holding a gun. Yeah, this comes just months after a previous incident resulted in an 8-game suspension. The specifics of the potential sanctions are unclear. Republicans, including Governor Ron DeSantis, have shown support for Morant. The Grizzlies have suspended him from all team activities pending league review.
I was so disappointed. I woke up and I thought it was maybe like, for some reason, the first offense was resurfacing for some reason. And I looked and I said, no, this is a whole different situation. I saw it first on Twitter. And I was just so disappointed in him, for him, his family, the team. And, you have to question his sincerity. I mean, he went through this whole, I'm sorry, I'm going to do better. He went through counseling. He was reinstated. He's up and down the court. They had a great run to try to push past and move on into the playoffs. And it just seems for nothing.
And it feels like he's making a mockery of the people that actually go out and seek help and seek counseling, because, he went and did that, but yet and still he's back to his old ways, right? And counseling by no way is a panacea. It doesn't mean that, it's going to, solve whatever underlying challenges you have overnight, but it just feels like he's giving short shrift, that counseling, felt like it was a public statement and not where his heart was at. And who knows why he keeps doing this. And what this is all about. But think about all the endorsement deals. Think about, his future in the NBA. Think about his future period being put on the line for just exercising poor judgment yet again. Only months after he did it the first time. Yeah,
maybe he doesn't understand the gravity of maybe the anointing, the talent, the gifts, and all that responsibility that comes with it. I understand he's young, but at this point, you are on track to be one of the best to ever do it. I mean, that's how talented this guy is, and he's also responsible for the well-being of, I'm sure, a lot of family members. I do believe he has a young child, and to see him sort of kind of throw this all away carelessly and so recklessly is disappointing. It's very disappointing.
Yeah, very much so.
All right, we're going to move on here to something a lot more positive. Sasha Obama, the youngest daughter of former President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, of course, graduated from the University of Southern California.
Whoop,
the
whoop.
Obama decortalized stomping grounds. The Obama family attended the graduation ceremony, with Sasha earning her undergraduate degree in sociology. Now, despite the presence of Secret Service agents, the former First family kept a low profile and exchanged waves with fellow guests and graduates. Sasha transferred to USC from the University of Michigan in 2022 to be closer to her sister, Malia. She was only 7 years old when her father took office. She was just as cute as a button as the 44th president. That was back in 2008. You add a little math. Sasha is now 21, and we want to congratulate not only Sasha, but all of this season's graduates. Lots of graduations happening over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see, and welcome to the USC alumni, Sasha Obama. I mean, this is incredible, and you're right. I mean, we were introduced to Sasha Obama at 7 years old. We can hardly
Cutest.
believe it.
Yeah.
And now look at her.
I know.
And she had moved. Remember, a lot of people were surprised that she started at the University of Michigan.
I was.
But then transferred to the University of Southern California. And she did so in part to be closer to her sister Malia, who has an up and coming career in Hollywood.
And did so fairly quietly, because it wasn't until the story came out, I was like, oh, that's right, she is out there in California.
Yeah. I mean, and amazingly, the Obamas kept a relatively low profile at that graduation. A lot of reports said that they had sort of a swarm of Secret Service agents, but nothing got too rowdy. They were sure not to pull too much focus from Sasha's special day.
But I feel like their life after the White House has been low-key, but not low-key in the sense that they're living their best lives as regular as they possibly can, not so low-key because they are the Obamas. It's good to see it, though.
Yeah, we love to see it. Still ahead, the importance of mental health in the Black community and in sports. Former
NFL player Doug Middleton will join us to help awareness during this mental month. You're watching FOXSOUL's Black Report.
Well, welcome back to FOXSOUL's Black Report. Well, Brittany Griner made her return to the basketball court for the Phoenix Mercury after a 10-month detainment in Russia on drug-related charges.
Yeah, it was a good look, too. The 6'9", I didn't know she was that tall.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Wow, 6'9", seven-time All-Star, finished with 10 points and 3 rebounds in a preseason game against the LA Sparks. Griner's teammates and the home crowd welcomed her back with lots of enthusiasm, as you can imagine. Her comeback brings renewed hope for the Mercury to make a strong WNBA Finals run.
That's right. Griner's experience in Russia has also given her a platform to advocate for Americans detained abroad, in addition to her LGBTQ activism.
Former St. John's University men's basketball coach Mike Anderson is seeking $45.6 million from the institution after being terminated from his coaching contract. Anderson alleges that he was terminated to make way for the hiring of Rick Pitino. The requested amount includes remaining contract money and punitive damages. St. John's denies the claims and plans to defend against them. Anderson had a record of 68-56 during his tenure as head coach.
And what's so interesting, Courtney, is, sources say that Anderson had been given a 6-year extension in February 2021. And so what changed so much between 2021 and 2023?
Yeah.
Remember 2021 was still in the aftermath of George Floyd. There are a lot of organizations that were trying to demonstrate that, they're down for racial justice and creating opportunity, and what happened?
I don't know, but I know, in the world of coaching, it's all about winning. I don't know how good or not so good his record, may have been, especially when you compare it maybe to other coaches. These head coaching jobs, especially for our soulmates, are so far and few between. It does make you take a second look as to, okay, well, what is his firing really all about? And I'm sure there's probably some weight to what he feels, but if that would hold up in a court of law as factual, that's, yet to be determined. But I remember those days, St. John's and Syracuse and all those, Georgetown and all those great games, and how huge that program is. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. When you talk about St. John's, it's one of the iconic, basketball programs, and people are going to be real interested to see how this plays out.
People are real interested. I know, ESPN got a hold of the termination notice, and they said that it states he was let go for, quote, failure to create and support an environment that strongly encourages student athletes who are in the men's basketball program to meet all university academic requirements. And so I don't know if that's all that's in there, but that's what ESPN is citing. And so this sounds a little fishy.
Interesting, to say the least. All right, meanwhile, all month long for May, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, among others, but the importance of awareness is needed now more than ever before.
That's right. Today we're joined by a man who is working every day to help those needing help. Former NFL veteran and mental health advocate and founder of Dream the Impossible, Doug Middleton, is with us today. Welcome to FOXSOUL's Black Report, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Indeed.
So, Doug, can you share with us your mental health journey and tell us, what led you to advocating following your time in the NFL? There's so many things you could have done. Why did you choose to, spend your time, talent, and treasure on this?
Yeah, mental health is something that's extremely important to me. It's something that's impacted my life, my family's life, and it's just something that I'm very passionate about. My brother, he's a social worker. My mom is a therapist. And for me, throughout my journey and my career in the NFL, having time where I've had multiple season injuries and then also losing my best friend to suicide in 2017, there was just a lot of different things that happened throughout my career that's called me into this purpose. And just also seeing, teammates that I've played with throughout my career in the NFL that have died from suicide, and I have a platform, from playing in the NFL to be able to spread that healing to other people and other venues and avenues. And, I'm just trying to step in that purpose.
Indeed. And you got it honest when considering your mom and your brother's career. So tell us a little bit more about Dream the Impossible, and how did you and your wife come up with this idea for this nonprofit?
Yeah, for me and my wife, me playing football with Appalachian State University and then following my time there, played the NFL. And I can just always remember people, saying to me that everything that I want to accomplish in life, was going to be impossible. And so I work with a lot of kids, I work with a lot of youth, and our foundation works with a lot of youth. And we help them, find out what their dreams are, what their purpose is in life. And then we build them up the strength to understand that anything you want to accomplish in life is possible. And so Dream the Impossible, we challenge these youth to really step out and not just dream something that they know is attainable, but something that most people, wouldn't believe in or wouldn't think would be attainable. We help in the ways of mental health awareness, education, connecting the resources, and just breaking down the stigma.
There is so much happening on the field. There's so much happening in our communities. Tell us, why do you believe mental health support is needed more now than ever in sports, particularly for Black athletes? And what's something that you wish was available when you were playing?
Yeah, I think it's really important, especially for Black athletes in sports. I mean, you're seeing it now. With John Morant's situation. I just heard you all talking about that just now, but. Once we make mistakes, it's really hard to get back from that. And then, a lot of people don't think about the mental things that happen following some of those losses, and some of those losses that are put on such huge platforms. Like when somebody else makes a mistake, one person may know, another person may know, but when we as athletes make mistakes, it's put everywhere. And so as Black athletes, being tore down so easily, there's a lot of mental lack that comes from that a lot of mental feedback that we have to, bounce back from. And so just being able to, notice that, know what the signs are, know what the weaknesses of it is, and know what the disadvantages of it is. And also enjoying the strengths too. Like being able to play at this high level, being able to play at the NBA, NFL is something you dream of since you were a little kid. So it's you don't want to forget that it's still the dream, it's still everything that you've worked for. But one thing that I wish, that they had now that I've always thought about is just being able to have a group of mentors that can really guide these young men and really that are already kind of set up. So when these at-risk situations do happen, we can just be plugged right into these mentors, into this circle to help us really bounce back.
Yeah. Real quick, Doug, you mentioned Ja Morant. It's the talk of the town, if you will, this morning. A little bit on, do you think, from your seat, do you think this is more of a mental issue, or is it more so reckless abandonment? That seems to be the argument across social media this afternoon. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thoughts. I mean, Ja's still very young. He's still, I think he's still under 25 years old. And when you look at the people he has around us and where he's from, and just being able, I was always told just to make sure you have the right people around you. Mm-hmm. And you show me your friends, you can show them your destiny. So it's just making sure that he gets the right people around him. Of course, there's only so much an NBA team with their staff and that they can do to prevent some of the things that he's encountering right now. There's only so much control that they do have, and so it just really comes down to the people he hangs with, the mentors that he looks up to, and just getting the right people in the circle.
In our remaining minutes with you, can you tell us, for those wanting to get help or who may be in need of help, where can they go?
Yeah. If you know you're feeling alone, you're feeling like things aren't where you want them to be in your life right now. You're feeling like, hey, like I don't know how I'm gonna be able to keep going. One thing I would tell them is number one, reach out to the suicide hotline 988. That's been a resource that we've been long advocating for a long time, and we finally have access to that. So 988 just as easy as calling 911. And then the next thing I would say is to tell somebody in your group, reach out and use your support system and be able to have conversations and vulnerable conversations, not transparent but very vulnerable conversations where you find ways that you can get better. And then from there, just finding a self-care routine, finding something that works for you, finding, whether that's yoga, which is something that I do, whether that's, going to a movie or just getting your nails done, finding your self-care routine and what you could do that could make you be in a better place.
Yoga, I love it. That's also a great practice, but my knees, my
Yeah,
knees, y'all
yeah.
still got my knees.
Yeah, especially hot yoga. Hot yoga.
I would fall
great.
out from hot yoga. Yeah, but
y'all gotta come see me. We're I'm opening a hot yoga studio in Charlotte, North Carolina right now.
okay, one of our old stomping
right now.
grounds.
We're
We'll have to make our way for sure. Personally, how can we follow you, keep in touch with you across social media, especially with this effort with you and your wife? We definitely want to stay linked before we let you go.
Yeah. You can follow us on social media, Dream Them Possible, or my Instagram, 36DM_ERA. And you can also follow, check out our yoga studio, Wellness Center, Dream Yoga and Wellness. You can find that on Instagram. But yeah, we're building a wellness center. Currently, right now, we open up in 2 weeks, and it's a place that people will be able to come in and get in-person mental health therapy, and they'll also be able to do yoga. So we're just going to have everything. Holistic health is what we're preaching.
That's amazing.
In person in Charlotte.
I don't know about hot yoga.
Yeah.
Easy. I need easy on the knees yoga.
We got the hot yoga. We got non-heated yoga.
Road trip.
Easy
That's all
on
I
the
got
knees
to say.
yoga. That's what I need.
We can do it.
Doug Middleton, thank you so much for your ministry, you and your family. We appreciate you so much. You're an official soulmate. We got to definitely have you back, brother.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Indeed. All right, coming up, there's a new college course on one of the greatest comedians.
That's right. We'll tell you which college will introduce a class on Dave Chappelle.
Oh, wow.
You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Over the weekend, National and Birmingham, Alabama institutions, they hosted a commemoration of the 62nd anniversary of the Freedom Rides.
Yeah, the movement began to challenge the lack of desegregation in public transportation and facilities after the Supreme Court's Boynton versus Virginia decision. That was back in 1960. Now, in 1961, 13 individuals embarked on 2 buses from D.C. Protesting interstate transportation segregation laws.
That's right. The commemorative event featured firsthand accounts from Freedom Riders who bravely fought to integrate the bus systems despite the attacks that they faced in Anniston and Birmingham in 1961.
Sounds pretty factual to me. Sounds like something that actually happened. So would this be in one of those books that, Florida and South Carolina want to do away with? I mean, these are the stories. These are the stories. And some of those freedom riders were white.
That's right.
So let's tell the whole story. Let's tell everybody's history, because there's just so much importance in knowing where we've come from and how far we've come from, so we can have a better direction on where we want to go. And nickel and diming which history fact should go in and shouldn't is a problem.
And in fact, if I remember correctly, my honors English teacher was a Freedom Rider, and Mrs. Andrian, and you could tell that influenced the course of her life.
Sure.
From how she taught English class, right? But you're right. This is the same history that they want to erase. Folks on the other side, they may call this implicit bias, right? But we know this as all-out racism. Like that was the motivation, for all of this, and it is so much of what we are still trying to overcome.
But who are you keeping this information from? These are generations now who are born into this technology. So it's not in their books at school, but anything you want to know know is at your fingertips, especially for the generations being born into, all they know is Google. All they know is sitting in front of their computer and finding this and finding that. So what's this argument really all about, and who are you really trying to keep this information from? Because if young people, wanted to learn about it, they could, whether it be in school or not. So what's your real angle? I think it has to do with wanting to throw it back to the years of Reconstruction.
That's
and
right.
Wanting things the way they want things. But you can't, in this highway of what they call it, technology highway, information highway, how are you keeping this away from people who really want to find out and know about it?
But part of it, this is an act of desperation. This is what folks are trying to do to protect and preserve white supremacy, right? And so when young black kids and other kids of color discover that the white man's ice isn't colder, right? Then they start to govern themselves differently and start to act differently. And that's when we actually start to come together. And so that's what they're fighting against.
All right, Spike Lee and the Gersh Agency have selected 5 students into its inaugural class of Spike Lee Fellows at Gersh program. The new program will help support 5 HBCU students from the Atlanta University Center Consortium. That's Morehouse, Spelman, Clark Atlanta. Morris Brown was not included, however. Now, this fellowship will provide mentorship both in front of and behind the camera. According to the Hollywood Reporter, the fellows will undergo an 8-week paid summer learning experience and be awarded $25,000 in academic debt relief and full-time employment beginning September of 2024. It's a great program. Well, Dave Chappelle is moving into academics. The 49-year-old funny man is set to have a course taught in his name at Concordia University in Montreal, Canada, just this fall. Students will reportedly examine the link between his skits and their relationship with music. Yassine Narsi Al-Salma, the professor set to teach the course, stated, quotes, "I'm writing my syllabus right now, and from what Dave and the community around him gave me. I'm going to kind of celebrate that and the 50th anniversary of hip hop as a community." I think this is super cool. Yeah.
I think it's great when professors are able to, take what's happening in the court of public opinion or take what's happening in pop culture and add some theoretical grounding to it, add, some academic heft to it.
Yeah, but when I heard about it, I was trying to run through the article because I was like, well, where they going to do that at? Because, Dave Chappelle is quite honest, and he's almost been a little too honest for America, almost been a little too honest, for his own good at times, as far as being able to ruffle feathers and really taking his platform to the very, very edge. So I wasn't surprised this was out of school, in Canada. I don't know if America is quite ready for, just Dave Chappelle and his platform, whether you agree with what he's said in the past or not, whether you, think he's funny or not, or has really pushed the envelope a little too much or not. I think he's worth the study in regards to what he has accomplished in Hollywood and all that he had to come up against. But I'm surprised that it's not at a university or college here in the States.
Well, but this is keeping with the history. I think it was Nina Simone that said that, in her view, it's the artist's responsibility to reflect the times. And so it's really great that this professor in Canada is attempting to do that. Dave Chappelle's work, some of his work has been more controversial than other work, but it's inspired a conversation and it's gotten people to sort of think critically about a whole range of things. And so, I love when academia does this, and I hope that syllabus is open source. I
was going to say made public. I'd love to see it.
A lot of us can check it out because she's also including some connections to Tupac and other figures in the hip hop community. And so we'll be looking for it. We'll be Googling it.
That's right. E40 is now an honorary doctor of music. Dr. E40 now?
Dr. E40.
The Bay Area rapper was recognized for his contributions to his alma mater, Grambling State University, with an honorary doctorate degree during the class of 2023's spring commencement ceremony. He celebrated on IG with a note, "Dr. Earl E40 Stevens is officially in the building." Thank you, Grambling State University, for giving me an honorary doctorate in music and molding me into the man and entrepreneur that I've become. I'm truly humbled. That is the end of that quote. Dr. E40. It doesn't get any better than that.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, from the Bay Area, E40, he just means so much to, so many of us that, grew up on his music. And, he's given us another reason to get hyphy.
Yeah.
With him getting this doctorate. But what's also really cool about this is he studied commercial art. He studied commercial art at an HBCU. And look at what he's done with his life and his career, right? And so this is just another endorsement in terms of how and why HBCUs are really a crown jewel when it comes to American innovation and American entrepreneurship. And had he not had that experience, this isn't just me talking, E40 said this, that experience as a student at Grambling literally changed his life.
And why you can't judge a book by its cover, because E40 has always been in the thick of it, and he's one of those ones who has been long withstanding and has survived the ebb and flow of hip hop culture and rap music, and he's always right there. And so I think when you talk about his background and his time at Grambling and may have added to his success as a rapper, and now this business mogul in his own right, I think there's something to say to that. It just doesn't happen by osmosis, and he just hasn't been able to survive this thing. Sometimes the hits dry up and go away, but what he has been able to leverage and use by way of his talent has just been amazing. And also the Warriors apologize, and he's back courtside. Unfortunately, they didn't make it as far as they wanted to, but he is that dude, especially in the Bay Area, and folks love E40.
That's right. And he also would sow back to his alma mater. He gave over $100,000 recently to Grambling.
Wow.
And so he's just a model in so many ways of, this is how we do it. Up next, Keke Palmer is sounding the alarm on the Me Too movement.
We will tell you her latest comments and who she says needs to be held accountable. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. We'll be right back, Soulmates.
Important conversation. Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Well, the writer's strike is impacting many of our favorite shows.
There's word that the strike will put the newest season of P-Valley on hold. Say it ain't so.
Oh, please say it ain't so.
News broke right over the weekend that the Star series suspended production. The creator and showrunner, Katori Hall, said they will not be filming until a fair deal is reached.
Which means no Uncle Clifford for us.
Oh my goodness.
This all comes as the show is continuing to find success, only premiering back in 2020 on the streaming platform. One of my favorite shows.
Yeah, it caught fire real quick.
It did. I enjoy, watching it with friends, and I think Nico Annan, who plays Uncle Clifford, is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
a Detroit native.
Yeah.
He's also Ghanaian, same tribe as my dad.
There's a connection. Y'all cousins?
We might be.
All right.
We're investigating that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Show caught on fire. Everybody was borrowing passwords to
stars. That's right.
to really get into this show. But I love how Ms. Katori, who is just a genius, you ask me, is saying, hey, we're going to support this effort. Everybody knows or should knows how critical writers are. That is why some of our favorite shows may also be halted as folks continue to support these writers. They just want a little bit more money so they can continue to do what they love to do and live.
Shared prosperity.
Absolutely.
Go figure.
Absolutely.
Well, new mom Keke Palmer is sounding the alarm, saying that it's time for the Me Too movement to have more accountability. In a recent interview with People, Keke said that it's time that the movement made its way to the music industry, saying, quote, "It hasn't happened in music, and it should. Bad things happen in all industries, obviously, but specifically entertainment. Many may remember the movement started back in 2006 and grew in 2017 when Hollywood executive Harvey Weinstein faced allegations." We've talked a lot about this, off air and on air. And, the fact of the matter is there are a lot of enablers that make it possible for the Harvey Weinsteins of the world, for example, to take advantage of folks, not just in the entertainment industry, but in all sorts of industries. And so, I think there's opportunity for all of us who support the Me Too movement to affirm that movement by when we say something, when we say something, do something.
Yeah. First, let me just take a minute out to say that Kiki looks absolutely fabulous. There's this throwback to this, Black Hollywood regale, starriness, if you will, with her recent appearance on the Meta carpet, and then she had a baby Mother's Day shoot. But she's always been a fire starter, always been a firecracker, always had that attitude that she's not to be played with. And so, whether you agree with her timing or not, she has always been one to kickstart a conversation. She was on the front lines of a lot of those protests, speaking squarely in the face of those police officers who were doing what they were commissioned to do. So I think her sounding another fire alarm to sort of kind of start another fire, under this particular movement. I think you're going to get some results from it, and I think people are going to begin to talk about it again, especially, as new allegations may come up for people feeling, comfortable and more welcomed by Kiki saying, hey, we need to talk about this.
Yeah, and we also got to make sure that we can hold people accountable, but like mob rule is not the way to go either, because sometimes we convict people in the court of public opinion before they even go to trial. That's right. And so I think there's lots of work afoot in this movement, but it's good to see her using her voice and her platform to remind us, that this work is not done yet.
Yeah, she always does. All right, speaking of being held accountable, the Brat is apologizing following her recent comments about the lack of Black sperm donors. The rapper and her wife were recently heard in their reality show referring to the only available Black donor as Jimmy Cricket, and that out of the thousands of donors, there weren't any they approved of. The Brat is saying, although the show cherry-picked that one joke out of an entire discussion, she apologizes, and her intent was never to offend anyone. We talked a bit about this, and you have a husband, if I don't mind, who is an executive producer of an amazing show that we have all seen, and he said what?
What did he say?
If you don't give them any material.
Oh, that's right. He says, when it comes to reality TV, they can only take what you give them.
That's right.
Right. And so if you don't say it on camera, if you don't do it on camera, if you don't act out on camera, they have no material, to work with, and they're not in the business of, well, at least he's not in the business, of trying to, make people look bad, or manipulate. There are some shows out there that are. Yeah. His is not that. But it does happen in the industry, where folks say things that are taken out of context and manipulated and then pushed out into the public square, and people react. And so that's what the Brat was saying happened in her case. We just know that there are a lot of tender feelings around sperm donors, and the fact that there already aren't enough, sort of Black sperm donors, and for the little bit of Black sperm that's out there and available through these agencies, there's a lot of people that don't seem to, pick these folks. And
a little tender around what they did select, what they decided to select according to what, the show kind of revealed. So as this pregnancy moves along and the birth happens, we want a healthy baby, absolutely. But it'll just be interesting to see how it all kind of falls out.
I hope we don't fall out.
I'm talking about the talk.
Yeah. I got you. Well, a major section of Highway 5 in Minnesota has been renamed for music legend Prince.
We love it.
It's near the late singer's Paisley Park home and studio and bears his full name, Prince Rogers Nelson. Governor Tim Walz made it official, signing the bill in purple ink. Nice touch. The law stipulates the highway sign must be purple too.
We love it.
One of our very favorite artists, an artist that will be remembered throughout eternity. And so it's great to see his home state, really keeping his memory alive in this way.
gosh, I still can't believe he's gone.
Yeah.
And his passing has like a real special kind of meaning. He passed maybe a day before my mom, a day or two before my mom. And as my mom was transitioning, she loved Prince. We put the headphones on, and she would kind of react a little bit to all her favorite, Prince records that would come on. But yeah, his talent and that legacy is just, and that music is one for the ages. And so for these folks in his own backyard to honor him in this way is pretty special. And that's another road trip that's on my list. I got to get to Paisley Park. A couple of my girlfriends have been. She was just like, oh, it's amazing. I said, I imagine so. So I got to get to Minnesota when it's warm.
Well, since the weather's
and
now getting nice.
And hello to our soulmates who watch in Minnesota when it's warm.
Yeah, we want to see you in Minneapolis. We're going to figure this out one way or another.
Right,
but that's a very special memory that you have of your mom
really
and
is.
Prince.
That's the connection there.
Yeah.
All right, new parents Rihanna and A$AP Rocky have finally revealed the name of their baby boy, giving us a hint in a heartwarming IG post that quoted the rap group Wu-Tang. The baby's name is RZA, honoring Wu-Tang's lead member. RZA also shares A$AP Rocky's middle name, Alston. That's it. The reveal comes as the couple celebrates the baby's first birthday. The second child is absolutely on the way. But what tickled me is there was a whole generation who didn't know who the RZA was. And I guess I can understand that. The Wu-Tang about my age, maybe a little early or older. We're in our early 50s. And so I can see, the youngins, but like RZA, who is that? Google him.
It's one of the joys of getting older is that our pop culture references, sometimes they age too.
And fall short.
Yeah.
For those who are a little younger or a little on the younger end. But I thought that was a great ode to the member of Wu-Tang and Wu-Tang Clan, who we know they got documentaries out about their presence in hip hop, and so I thought that was great.
And what just a beautiful family! Like oh my goodness, Rihanna and A$AP Rocky, and now RZA, and then there's another kid on the way. What a joy to be able to watch them.
I want a girl.
What a joy to be able to watch them sort of grow up in front of our eyes. We've seen them grow as artists, and we're seeing them grow their family, and how lucky are we that we get to have a front row seat to watching that happen.
But how crazy is that they were able to keep that name so under wraps for so long? We would see the baby, but nobody knew the name.
I'm not surprised.
Really?
Look, it's living proof that, if you want to keep a low profile on things, you can keep a low profile. You don't have to share all your business, right? Look at the Obamas. The Obamas at Sasha's graduation, they found a way to keep a relatively low profile. And so it's possible out there. There's some people out there that just crave attention, can't get enough.
Unless you get booked
and overshare.
Unless you get booked for the halftime performance of the Super Bowl, you about to share something. And so I'm waiting. I'm hoping maybe they get a little girl, healthy baby, but I'm hoping for a little girl for them. How cute is that?
Very cute. Well, up next, it's our favorite segment, Black Excellence. And we're celebrating Jalen Hurts for all the right reasons.
Listen, we'll tell you all about this new degree he has and what he plans to do next. You're watching FOXSOUL's Black Report.
Jalen Hurts' incredible year continues after the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback earned a master's degree in human relations from Oklahoma.
He is on fire. Education appears to have always been important for Hurts. Both his parents are teachers, and said he was inspired by his mother during his freshman year at Alabama after he watched her go back to school to get another degree. Hurts later earned a bachelor's degree in communication and information sciences in just 3 years at Alabama. Then he transferred to Oklahoma in 2019.
Now with 2 degrees and a Super Bowl appearance under his belt, Hurts heads into his 4th NFL season as the franchise quarterback with a new big contract.
A huge big contract. Auntie Courtney is so proud of you. You're just as cute as a button. I just want to pinch him right on his cheeks, the ones that sit on his face.
Okay,
but
Auntie.
No, really, he is just, the story here.
Yeah.
And he's so modest, and it's not this superhero thing. He is just doing what is expected. He is doing, what, he's been blessed and talented and gifted to do. And it's just good to see somebody who appears to be very balanced and things are in perspective. And it really counteracts, the unfortunate news with Ja Morant and hoping that, he can get back on track. Whatever that track is for Ja, it's different for everybody. But whatever that track is, as far as some positive yielding results for Ja Morant, allow, Jalen to be that example.
Well, hopefully Morant can look to Hurts as a source of inspiration, right? And what I just love about this story is that we get to celebrate him not just on the field, but his hard work in the classroom, right? Is the positivity that he's bringing, to our community. And so, congratulations to him.
Yeah.
So many folks out there.
Graduation season,
graduating.
And you attended one as well?
I did. I went to the Howard University commencement this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had
there was a special guest speaker. We had
very
talked
special
about
guest that we've talked about from time to time
there
here on FOXSOUL's Black Report. You're looking at President Joe Biden and President Frederick over at Howard University, where President Biden delivered the commencement address and didn't mince words at all. I mean, he was really testing out some of his content.
Yeah, you told me he pulled out some receipts too, because we were questioning, with this presidential bid, would he take this moment not just to speak to Howard grads, but to Black America, taking this moment. Your thoughts on that?
He did. He met the moment, and he used this moment to squarely talk about the threat that white supremacy poses to our country in no uncertain terms.
For the full rundown on today's stories and more, you can access FOXSOUL's video on demand on any of our partners. You can even access past shows and other Black-centered content. Don't forget to download the FOXSOUL app. It is free. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte. On behalf of the entire team here at FOXSOUL's Black Report, we thank you. We'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, stay lifted.
We thank you. Stay safe.